Hi everyone, this is Eliza and I am the Director of Counseling at McLean Bible, and I am here again to talk about the very serious subject of suicide. Last time we talked about the myth that if you bring up the subject of suicide with somebody who you think might be struggling, that you actually encourage them to move towards that action, and that is not the case. And so I encourage you, if you haven't watched that video, to go back and find that video and hear a little bit more about why that is the case and what you can do instead. But today I want to just talk a little bit, and this is going to not be as extensive as it probably should be, but just give you a couple handles if you are walking with somebody, or you love somebody, or you're friends with somebody who you think is struggling with suicide, or you've asked that question that we talked about last time of just being very direct and saying, have you ever thought about ending your life? And they confide in you that yes, they have. What you need to do when you have somebody who potentially is struggling with this. And first of all, you want to listen for some things. You want to listen for hopelessness. Maybe you haven't been able to ask that question to them, but you're concerned about them, and so you want to listen for, are there things that point to the fact that they have lost hope, that they really feel like there is no way out, that they are maybe even saying things like, I just can't take anymore. So if you're listening for that and you hear that, then you want to also listen for the idea of like they don't have anything else to live for, that they maybe are expressing, it would be better for everybody else if I just wasn't here, or I'm a burden. Those are those things that you really want to listen for. Hopelessness, and they no longer have a reason to live. If you hear those things, then you want to look for certain things. Do they have a means to actually follow through with maybe what they've shared with you? Do they have the ability to follow through? Are there firearms that are available to them? High doses of medication? Whatever they have shared, do they have a way to actually act on that? And the other thing you want to actually look for is impulsivity. Is this person emotionally impulsive? Do they have an emotion and kind of act on it right away? And if so, that is a pretty significant concern. Do they have the energy to actually follow through? And in light of that, it's something to be aware of, that just because somebody is dealing with depression does not actually mean that they are going to be suicidal. In fact, many times people who are struggling with depression, and even very deep chronic depression, actually are not suicidal. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that, and you will see that especially as it relates to this whole idea of energy to follow through. A lot of times people who are depressed don't actually entertain those thoughts, and if they do, they don't have the energy to really do much with that. And so if you have somebody who has kind of that impulsivity, and you think they could actually follow through with that, you have a pretty urgent situation and you want to seek help immediately. That can be help from the emergency room, if you can take somebody to the emergency room, or calling 911. The other thing you can do is to encourage them to get help if they are refusing to go in, encouraging them to call the suicide prevention hotline, and we'll put that in the comments, but just to have it here, it is 1-800-273-8255. And I would encourage you to stay with somebody who is feeling this way and has all of those concerns that are raising those kind of concerns. Stay with them. Go with them to the emergency room if you can. But stay with them in the long haul as well. So if you have somebody who is struggling with this, it is not going to be something that is over with immediately. And so seek out care. I would really encourage pastoral care. Connect with a pastor who can walk with you, pray with you, give spiritual guidance, as well as a biblical counselor who's trained to recognize some of these concerning signs. But not just for that person, get care for you as well, because it can be a really hard thing to walk with somebody who is struggling with suicidal ideation or thoughts of suicide. And if they are willing to reach out and get help, but maybe they don't want to call that hotline, or maybe they don't want to immediately see a counselor, there's actually a number that you can text. If you text the word home to the number 741-741, that is a crisis counseling line, and a person will immediately be able to give them some care, some direction, and some suggestions. So those are just a few things to think about on a very important subject